types of people. Everybody is happier because they've had a meal. There's one set which is happy and attentive, so no matter what you say, they're happy. And there's one set which is happy but not interested, so they go to sleep. Usually in large gatherings, they even dim the lights. Yeah, lights consistently on, but it helps those who are trying to sleep. So for those of you who are attentive, I was actually quite taken aback by the elaborate introduction to my session. I don't think I'll be speaking as much about AI and creativity, because AI is a developing subject in the sense that there is an old tale in the Panchatantra about two kids who were coming home from a pathshala or a school, and a tiger started to chase them. So वो बेचारे दोनों भाग रहे थे, तो एक ने दूसरे से कहा कि I don't think हम शेर से आगे भाग सकते हैं. तो उसने कहा कि उल्लू, मेरे को सिर्फ तेरे से आगे भागना है, because whoever is behind will be eaten. So AI expertise is a bit like that right now. Whoever is one article up or one book up or one project or one experiment up can claim to have expertise. What I wanted to do today was, for those of you who know, I have been writing and speaking about this subject for a while. So I just wanted to give you a broad view, and I will do this in two parts. More than what I am saying, which is probably known to you, the sequencing is important. So just stay with me for the sequencing. The first and the most important development that has happened in the world of marketing, I began life in Hindustan Lever in 1999. We are in 2025. In these 26 years, digital is just a byproduct. I think the biggest thing that has happened is your life has become represented, captured, pivoted, anchored on the mobile phone. So that lit screen of glass is almost your complete personality, being, finance, and the phone knows more about you than you and your entire set of relations know about themselves. And mobile is not only the first screen, it is also the main stage, the main platform, almost everything. In fact, I wonder now why people kidnap people. People should go and kidnap their phones, because आदमी अपने phone के बिना वैसे ही useless है. So mobile screens have two qualities. One is they are not static, it's a fluid format, and you are forever distracted between variety of screens. And the second thing that's happening is that it leads to linkages with other screens. And every economy, every country in its own era, when it does well, has a fundamental technology that leads to that growth. So in England in the 19th century, it was steam engine, the steam power that developed and led to industrialization. In America in the same time, it was the expansion of the railroads. Then came electricity. Then came mass communication. In America, the automobile also led to a development of suburban population. Without the automobile, Americans wouldn't have been Americans. But across the world today, it is the mobile screen, and it is, all of us know that. Before the plane lands, you start hearing the beeps on the phone. You see a family on vacation, 5 people, and I was in Switzerland last year going to a glacier, Titlis. We were in that rope car. The most magnificent view of the Alps, a family of 5 people, each one is on their own phone. Of course, they all took a selfie because wo post karna bahut zaruri hai, but after that, they were on their phones. So why come to Switzerland and be on your phone? But it is the primary identity. And the anxiety that you have being separated from your phone. Visa had done a research, I think a couple of years ago. It takes 7 to 9 minutes for a person to realize that he has left his wallet behind. Mohit, who's sitting here today, forgot his wallet. But because they were a credit card company, they had researched that it takes between 7 to 10 minutes for a person to realize that he has lost his wallet. But it takes less than 15 seconds for a person to realize that his cell phone is not with him. So if your business, if your marketing program, if your capital in a sense is not on the primary screen, you are in serious trouble. The second piece, which I wanted to talk about in sequence now, is the arrival of influencers. Now, I am 51 years old. Mohit and I are roughly of the same generation. Uh, in our age group, when somebody used to say, I am a consultant or I am consulting, it meant वो बेचारा voluntarily unemployed है, इस वजह से कहता है कि मैं consultant हूँ. Today, the same thing is true of influencers, because the mobile phone gives everybody the power to be a producer, an editor, a studio, a consumer, all rolled into one. So the distinction that has to be made is all who are influential are not influencers, but all who are influencers are not influential. This is a critical discriminator for marketeers to follow, because nowadays everybody is an influencer. My son, who's just gone into class 11, 2 years ago we had gone and organized a school picnic. I was one of the school parents and his senior class was also there. अभी 10वीं के बच्चे 3-4 से मेरे मिला, what do you do, I meant what subject? He says, I am an Instagram influencer. So this is not a sideshow, and the ability of the mobile phone to create peer-to-peer connection is unparalleled. People do not believe ads anymore. Advertising is seen primarily as self-seeking. And there is a large theory in psychology called the spotlight effect, which means, obviously, suppose I have a portfolio of 5 products and I launch a shampoo. I want the shampoo to be successful. Therefore, I put a lot of energy behind it, advertising, money goes there. Films are made on the shampoo. Naturally, the shampoo does well. So largely, journalism and advertising both are what is broadly called the attribution effect. अरे advertising करी इस वजह से shampoo बिका. But ये नहीं देख रहे कि the whole organization's energy was behind shampoos, that is why you are advertising. But the consumer discriminator today is, are people talking about it? And even within the spectrum of advertising, there are various shallow levels at which people only get clouded with recency. The one that comes to the front of your brain, gets you to do action, is usually from either dark social or social connects or referred peer-to-peer. So just by raise of hands, how many of you have read 2 full-length, say 500-word articles in a newspaper in the last 2 days? How many of you have moved to something, action taken as a consumer, based on television advertising in the last, say, 2 to 3 days? How many of you have scanned a QR code or called a 1-800 number based on an out-of-home hoarding? How many of you have been 15 times on your WhatsApp since the morning? So it is quite clear which way the gravity is flowing. And in the world of influencers, my only recommendation is, you cannot be programmatically smart about it. It is a vote of confidence. If you believe the person has the capability to raise the bar for your narrative, then invest in them. And our experience in the past, in my past lives, I have seen nano and micro influencers are far more important than mega or national influencers, because if a cinestar is selling scented perfumed oil one day and cement one day and tiles the third day, people know he is doing it because they cut him a fat check. And people want to talk, if you are in Andhra Pradesh, you want to talk to somebody who uses that vehicle or that product in Telugu. Relational framework is very important. The next piece is the world turning algorithmic. You see, consumers are thinking that they are independent, sovereign. What is in Western parlance, it's called agency, that I am agentic for myself. But that is not true. Because your world, what you think is reality, or what I think is reality, is actually filtered by multiple algorithms, not one. Just to give you a sense, the way your email is sorted by Gmail, the way you are prompted to see things on YouTube, the thumbnails that prompt you on Netflix, your day list on Spotify, none of this is in your control. Of course, you will say, no, but I like Arijit Singh, that is why it comes to the top. But they are also plotting what you do along with 1500 other people or 15 million other people like you. And if that was the case, look at the quantum of information that is going online. If my data is correct, almost 60,000 units of audio are uploaded globally on Spotify each day. That means roughly 21 million in 1 year. 10 years ago, the entire library on iTunes was 2 million. So the quantum of 500 hours of content is uploaded every minute on YouTube, which means there is a long tail. So earlier in Bombay, if I went to Rhythm House and I wanted to get a long playing LP record for a popular artist, sure I would get it. But if I wanted to get Mongolian folk music or African samba, there is no chance I would have got it there because it doesn't sell. But it is retrievable online, and this algorithmic world knows that. That is why earlier it was on consumption, now it is simply on lingering. So your finger has a brain of its own, your brain is subordinate to the finger brain. Trust me on this. And the model is also based on never being satisfied. Imagine if you go in the morning and say, आज सुबह नाश्ता करने के बाद मैंने 5 minute Instagram देखा and I am satisfied for the day. Then Instagram doesn't have a business model, which is what happens with a newspaper. We think we read a newspaper, but actually we peruse less than 10 to 15% because editorially we self-select. But in the world of digital, that is not the case. You are supposed to be on it all the time. Last year was the first year that advertising revenues outside of China in the world went to $1 trillion. And of that, $700 billion was digital. Of this $700 billion, $250 billion is Google, $180 to $200 billion is Meta, there is Amazon at about $50 billion, TikTok outside of China is 18, 19. Which means, and I wrote an article by that name, Gomis on Talk, Google, Meta, Amazon, TikTok. The four put together have 75% of global ad revenues. So बिचारा जो लक्ष्मी मिष्टार भंडार.com जयपुर में वो क्या करेगा? With all due respect, I am from Jaipur, I love Lakshmi Mishtar Bhandar. There is an assortment of filterings which have trapped you. You don't feel that because the cage is very big. But if you fly beyond a certain level, you will hit the boundaries of that cage. Nothing wrong with it. We have chosen that, but it is an algorithmic world. So we saw there is a mobile screen, there is cloud capital, there is predictive habit, there is the rise of influencers, and there is immense filtering via algorithms. In fact, the algorithm for all intents and purposes is the main lever for your marketing. And they've done it very smartly. So they said, itna content hai, how can we, so we will filter it for you. So the feed is for you. It is not for you, it is for them. Because advertising will arrive only when they can get your attention and your eyeballs. As a consequence, because you're supposed to keep doing this, अगर आप 3 घंटे राग दरबारी सुनेंगे या लॉरेंस ऑफ अरेबिया जैसी मूवी देखेंगे, तो फिर this model will not work. So it has to be short form. So if you are not going to satisfy in 5 seconds, you will not get the next 25 seconds or the next 55 seconds. And the compression is a good thing from a brand advertising point of view, but it is, in my opinion, a terrible thing from a culture creation point of view. Because how can you show a Mahabharata or a Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace on Instagram? I don't understand. It is not feasible. The model, the format doesn't allow for it. But even if you are Charles Dickens, Instagram mein aap fail ho, guaranteed, because the model doesn't allow for that. So then, whoever is doing well, everybody starts aping them. And then what happens is slowly you sink into commodity, because everybody is like everybody else. If you are following 10 people who you look up to, all of them will have to subscribe to the format of Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. I am very regular on LinkedIn. Even if I have the most perfect thought in the world, I cannot write more than 3,000 characters. It doesn't allow me. So now my thinking has started being, 2500 characters because I know 500 extra hashtag dalenge. So basically, all that you can think about is being compartmentalized in less and less. But it is giving the algorithmic power more and more. And this is not a good equation for the world of brand building because the power of the platform is going to force you, compel you to become less and less interesting, whereas the job of marketing is to become more and more interesting and more engaging. So this is by itself a paradox. Now we move to the generative AI future. Now, you see, our industry has four problems, marketing I was talking about. One is, and for this also I wrote an article, I call it expertitis and departmentalitis. Expertitis kya bimari hai? That I am the expert, so I know and I will tell everybody else. But the problem with AI is that it is like a character which has read everything in the world doesn't forget. But it has read everything in the world that is pre-existing, and therefore every time that you are soliciting some information, it is throwing up newness, but it is throwing up newness from existing material. So you start reducing your capabilities slowly, and our memory is impacted by it, our attention is impacted by it. We have become what a psychologist, Ed Conway, called the monkey brain. After about 10-15 seconds, you get what is called algorithmic anxiety. You want to pick up your phone as if you are controlling the dollar exchange rate or responsible for the launch of the next NASA rocket. आप नहीं phone देखोगे 15 मिनट तो दुनिया में कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला. But it is the way in which we have been preconditioned, all the time anxious and checking, because that has become your reflection. And the generative AI piece is interesting on two counts. One, it is already leading to the creation of synthetic media. And everybody who's in the creative business who tells me, boss, have you tried stable diffusion? Have you tried this? What fantastic output. It is like me praising poison before I commit suicide, because if your primary job is to do creativity and you are dependent on a tool that does it synthetically, you are not writing yourself a check for the future. You are handicapping yourself. If it was a tool, it is fine. But if it is your primary dependence, it is bad. So for example, when you were growing up, of course, most of you are much younger than I am, how many phone numbers did you know by heart? Mausi ka, bua ka, father ka, ghar ka number, at least 5 to 7 numbers we would know by heart. Today on cell phones, how many of you know 5 numbers by heart? Unlikely. Well, you must be having Chavanprash in the morning. But I for one know only my wife's number. My son's number also I don't remember, and I was discussing this with a few friends before. Because memory has become compressive. Because there is readily accessible memory otherwise. You don't need to remember, Arey wo kya tha? I will go and check. So your personality as a consumer, as a creator is drifting into, and then comes the piece about agentic. So two problems I covered in marketing, expertitis and departmentalitis. There are two other problems. One is we declare everything dead, and I've spoken about, TV is dead, print is dead, outdoor is dead. But we don't replace it with something which is equally profitable to us. For example, if you were an advertiser, test cricket was fine because most of test cricket concludes in 3.5 days. You get 3.5 days to advertise. But no, people love T20. So we will buy rights for gargantuan amounts. Now T20 gets over in 3 hours. So every ad spot will sell for 30 lakh rupees. Only that many people with that kind of ad spend. So you are becoming compressive. So the agentic AI piece is as if the planet will be rid of human beings. But we are already living in an agentic world. If you don't put on your seat belt, it beeps. If you don't shut your refrigerator door, it beeps. Your ICICI FD will get renewed automatically. Your location will get triggered automatically on your phone. Anything that has a threshold of data and then can trigger to take action is agentic. The problem for marketing is it will automatically pull, curate, create and populate content, and that is terrible from the point of view of brand risk, because God knows what it will churn out, and if there is no human in the loop, suddenly you will, like Pepsi got flack for that guy who, from Pakistan's team. He's just wearing a sponsored uniform, but because he did something that was deemed to be obnoxious, suddenly it's a brand problem as well. So generative AI is not human versus machine. It is the primacy of the human. Then we have covered this. Then comes the piece about what will my agencies do. Traditionally, the agency model is about borrowing people. I am borrowing people from advertising agency X. I pay for a percentage of their time. And what was the conventional model? I say, Arey, I want to launch some milk powder, take a brief, they will come back, they will, give 5 slogans. माँ जैसा प्यार नहीं ये नहीं चलेगा, कुछ और लगा, पोषण से भरा हुआ नहीं ये भी नहीं चलेगा, दमकती त्वचा, something. Then you will say, हाँ ये वाला ठीक है. Then they will go and iterate. And that iteration will take many weeks. They will come back with a storyboard. You will then commence the production. Today, I know that entire, I can see on the slide this is AI generated, right? So then why will I pay for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks of iterations? I don't want to pay for time and material. I only want to pay for end outcomes. Now, what is true for advertising versus client is true for client marketing versus CFO. So they are all now waking up to the fact that the accelerator tool will give you immense amounts of saving. And this will lead to a decline in traditional agency relationships. But I am optimistic on 2 counts. One, I feel the era of hybrid teams has arrived. So if X is in my team as a media planner, I want them to be sitting with me in my office, because who knows what might happen in the second half of the day. Those days saying, can you come next Tuesday at 12 o'clock? Because the world is in an always on format. So one is clients, whoever the client agency relationships are based on will be pulled closer. And the second is, because it is moving faster, you need brighter people. So the threat will be for entry level or mundane tasks, routine tasks. For tasks that involve some human foresight or insight, it will actually end up being more valuable. Thirdly, you can no longer outsource. You have to insource everything. The CEO can no longer say, PR is not my headache, talk to the Corpcom head. Because in half a day, it will reach everywhere from Morocco to Philippines that Samsung did this and it's terrible. So basically, everything that is surfacing up via AI, via answer engines, is directly the responsibility of, say, the CEO or very senior people in the organization. So the days when agencies were happy dealing with brand managers, that is going to end very fast. Search is also dead. I have a Gen Z representative at home, as I told you. He thinks I'm old-fashioned to go to Google for anything, because he does not even want to go and search in blue links. He wants only ready-made answers. And for those of us who are subscribers on ChatGPT, this is increasingly encountered, whether you're on Meta or Gemini or ChatGPT and so on. And here also, huge first mover advantage is being witnessed in the world. Which is the largest number of subscribers? In which country do the largest number of subscribers for ChatGPT live? Do you know? That's right. India has already become close to 16 to 18% of the global total of individual subscribers. Earlier, nobody was saying it when they were using ChatGPT to draft their emails. Now suddenly it is fashionable within organization. They're saying, sir, मैं तो 2 साल से use कर रहा हूँ. So till then they were hiding it and getting back only with the work. Now the scale on this, the second level is enterprise. Enterprise is going to be difficult because first of all, our data is haphazard. Secondly, pattern in data is very difficult unless you have an engine which is, or a data lake that is really, really at a class level. And depending on the enterprise, it will take double-digit or even triple-digit crores of investment. There is nothing shrink-wrapped here. And the problem is, if you want to experiment, somebody comes and says, I am bright AI dot whatever, bright.ai. How can you give your service data to bright.ai? Because it's gone. So my advice to those of you who are beginning to experiment with AI is, please don't own anything that has been successful in a pilot project, especially after the pilot project, because in my experience, no pilot project ever failed. And every partner of yours will come and say, sir, uplift is massive. इस चार्ट में फिट नहीं आ रहा, इतना भयानक अपलिफ्ट हुआ है. उनके अपलिफ्ट्स को टोटल करने लो, हमारी $15 trillion इकोनॉमी तो कल ही हो जाएगी. But after the scale pilot is done, inevitably it hits a plateau and then may even decline, because that is the nature of it. You have to make sense of the data. Cloud capital, I will skip. I have covered that already. If your business, whether you are selling diapers or aeroplanes, if you are not patterned on data that is accessible to you from the cloud, you are in deep trouble. Then my friends from Havas are here, they are media mavens. The fragmentation of media is unlike anything we have seen in the past. And everybody is dealing, it's like a beehive. There are small theaters of activity. You have to collect that. All the time you have to throw a wider circle, collect more and more pools of activity. The Chitrahar or the Sunday film was dead long ago. Now even prime time, etc. is under a question mark. Unless you are present multimodal, multi-format, multi-genre, always on, and then reading the digital exhaust as you go along, you will not be successful. Then comes this answer engine. So fine, everybody is looking for answers and nobody is searching, or nobody will search. How do I provide for the answers? And there again, two wonderful things, in my opinion, are happening. One is physical activity is becoming more important, because that is feeding the answer. So if you are not doing something real, you will not get the answers. And now again, there is deep segmentation within the types of usage that people will have from these answer engines. I wrote an article about Perplexity 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, nobody knew about Perplexity. Now Airtel does a deal with them and it is on everybody's phone for free, and Perplexity has zoomed out of nowhere. And they will probably sell for a valuation of at least $20 to $25 billion by latest estimates. I believe 14 permanent employees, 32 total employees sitting out of a shared office facility in San Francisco. Since I wrote the article, they may move to better offices. But this is the reality of our world. Then the revival of PR. Sorry, I'll go back 1 second. Public relations was considered to be one obligatory exercise. Kar do, PR, release kar do. Today that has become primary. Why? Because it is the only unadulterated format. You cannot tinker with what the company is saying. And we are now living in a world where there are two new realities. One, for the first time, people are famous for being famous. Not because they have done something credible, just because they are famous. So, for example, how many of you can name for me 5 Nobel laureates in the past 5 years? All postgraduates in the house. I also can't, by the way. It's not like I've written an answer here. Do we know even one of the 3 or 4 scientists who... Sorry? Kailash Vidyarthi. Very good, ma'am. Satyarthi. Yes. No, but I think you are the only one who will survive the era of AI, because at least you know 2. Congratulations. But the point I'm making is, how many of us know that Kim Kardashian was in India for a wedding recently? Now, the aura of answer engines or social media is making us confuse achievement with fame. What is famous is not necessarily profound. What is profound is not famous. Every one of us is moving around in this world thanks to 3 scientists who quickly developed the COVID vaccine. कोई बेचारा नाम तक नहीं जानता. And उनको bonus मिला होगा 120%, well done, in their pharma companies. But they saved humanity, nobody knows their name. This is the nature of the human experience. A plane flies from Calcutta to Delhi. you know, whatever, 700 tons of steel with 300 people in it. We are not bothered about the engineering that is making it fly. We are only bothered that मैंने 2 बार बोल दिया मेरे को सैंडविच नहीं दिया अभी तक. What kind of customer experience is Indigo doing? So this is the nature of the consumer. We are marketeers, we live in the real world, we have to deal with consumers. So it is a difficult world. It is not going to be easy. A, it's compressive. B, it's fragmented. C, it is going to be easy to copy. I have a friend who was in the merchant navy, made a lot of money, has bought a house in Alibag, got bored. So he called me the other day, said, do you know somebody who can do good creatives for very cheap on Facebook? I said, yeah, sure. I said, what are you doing on Facebook? He said, नहीं मैंने cosmetics का brand launch किया है. So I was most amused. I said, you're an engineering guy who used to be in an engine room of a ship all your life. What do you know about cosmetics? He said, you don't need to know. In Vapi, there are many factories. You just need to choose labels. They fill it. And you just do customer acquisition via Facebook. It's good money. Now, what about the L'Oreals and the Unilevers of the world who are doing, customer study and proofing and monadic studies and, blind test? वो तो चालू कर दिया उसने. And then he's telling me हर चीज़ में aloe vera डालना चाहिए. It leads to a lot of consumer acceptance. This is the reality of the world. So what is the impact? I can't even see it from here. One is, you will suddenly see a decline. Cookie-less and all is a separate problem. The problem is search itself, which is the primary basis for which programmatic was built, is on a steep decline. Second is the AI gold rush has started. We are all getting excited about the next big thing, but which will survive and which will flounder, I don't know. In the last month, I've met at least 3 entrepreneurs who have told me that 100 million valuation is right around the corner. But actually they are only building on top of one application or one facet of something like a chat GPT. The next time they do an upgrade, their business is out. So their race is to get that valuation and somehow get funding so that they can launch that and be done with it. I was so motivated, I thought I should put a statutory gazette notification, change my name to SHUBRAINSHU, मेरा भी valuation बढ़ जाएगा. If you have AI in your name, you are guaranteed to be taken more seriously. But can you make credible brands out of it? You see, in the entire piece, direct to customer is a prime example. I know so many direct to customer marketing entrepreneurs. Some of them have been my associates in the past from Unilever and other places. Very few of them are profitable. But if you understand their standards, speak to analysts, everybody says the same thing. We have understood the customer cohort. Our sales value is growing. Profitability is round the corner. वो round the corner पता नहीं कहाँ है. But because half or more than half of their capital deployed is going towards customer acquisition from the likes of Facebook, and great for Facebook. I have nothing against it. If I was doing it, I would do the same thing. But as brand marketeers, all the great brands outside of tech have been built between the First World War and the 1970s, including in India. And anything that your grandparents thought was a great brand, unless it was ruined, is still a great brand today. In closing, I'll say one thing. A great brand never ruined a good business, but a bad business ruined many great brands. So the world of AI, we should live as consumers first and as marketeers second. Because if you start living the world as marketeer first, you will not understand the reality of it. It's changing that fast. Thank you very much for your time.